OTS championships have taught me one thing about this game. You can always have all sorts of diversity be present, but probably the most degenerate deck is typically going to do the best. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Deep out here out of South Africa, we have our OTS championship breakdown here. And our most represented deck in this top cut is actually Unchained. Am I surprised about that? No. Unchained, especially in the other regions of the world where, people might not be able to get the most accessible cards, having access to Unchained, which was already an extremely budget deck at this point, still holds true even to this point. Cheaper cards typically will carry with them a lot more weight for the meta, and that's typically something that we've seen for a very long time. Now, winning our event was actually Tier Elements. I'm not really all that surprised, considering the fact that the way that Tier typically has been folding itself in, and especially the Horus package helping things out too. It's actually pretty interesting. Now, we also had a Rika Sun Avalon sitting here at the top cut as well. I'm not all that surprised, honestly. Especially, once again, when we go into the other regions of the world, where people might not have access to the most immediate meta decks, you do see, the diversity and things kind of start to shine. Now, we also had Flaunderies. Flaunder's been struggling a little bit out here this format. Not in like a bad way, but like, it feels like the deck needs just a little bit more of something, because MPen isn't really holding the deck together per se anymore. We also had a Sprite deck kind of stepping up to the plate too. I'm actually surprised about that. Sprite has also been kind of struggling a lot out here to kind of get off the ground. And we also had a Minkanko deck showing up and doing its thing, and especially for the lower ratings on some of these events, Minkanko can just come through and do a clean sweep on a majority of the event, and people just be like, what's going on here? Like, why am I suddenly losing to this? Well, this is one of those cases of, oops, the deck is incredibly resilient. And what it does, let's pass on over to deck list. Winning our event here is none other than the Horus tier deck. Now, very interesting to note here, this build is only playing 2 copies of Imseti. Actually, to be fair, you sacrifice for what, like 2 copies of the King's Sarcophagus? So you're doing a 2-1 split of this. Very interesting. I mean, you're still keeping the deck at 40 cards, which I think does work out. You've just got to be a little bit more careful what you do. And I see that we chose to play Beast King of the Swamp in here. Okay, so we were getting kind of creative with the ideas and things that we're trying to do. I also love the fact, we cut King of the Swamp. We no longer have to rely on polymerization to be the terrible brick that it feels like it ends up being at some points. Side decking, we also have triple Phantasme down here as well. And of course, most people are side decking in the Crime just to make sure that, you can destroy and punish the opponent. Yeah, that was a terrible pun, I'm sorry, but absolutely looks interesting for the build. Next up here, we have Rika Sun Avalon coming in at 2nd place. Actually pretty cool to see. I see that this build is actually main decking double evenly matched, and we are at 51 cards. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about, having a larger amount of cards, but to be fair, most of your engine pieces kind of allow you to do some interesting things. I do see that we do play the Small World, and we can actually bridge into the Doggeron here, so you can hand your opponent a Kaiju if they're starting to do things that you might consider a little bit detrimental to the game plan. It should be relatively easy for this deck to kind of overcome that. And I see post-side decking, I mean, what, we have another Evenly, we have the Dimensional Barrier, you can bring in the Spiritual Water Art Aoi as well, kind of assist you with your game plan. And of course, everybody's favorite, Naturia Rose Whip. Only 1 spell and trap card each turn. Yeah, this will be a good card, they said. I remember. Next up, we have 40 cards. Kudos to actually getting this deck trimmed down to the point that you can play 40, because most of the builds that we have been seeing as of late have been coming in at extremely heavier numbers. And let's call it what it is at this point. Honestly, this deck does really need to have the heavy hitters. We are also playing double copies of Retribution in here. That's also not something that I tend to see a lot of with these builds. And of course, yeah, we're still playing the triple super poly. I mean, look, you're a Fallen Valbaz turbo deck. All right, your entire game plan revolves around being able to chalk up and break your opponent's board through their cards. So this typically does make sense as to why you want to be playing that. And of course, we're still seeing the one Branded Lost. And of course, I love the Nadir Servants with the Maximus now actually getting 300% more value out here for the degeneracy. You love to see it. Next up here, we have Unchained, sporting off 43 cards, by the way. They crammed these in here to make sure that they can start to see option trees and do their thing. Still playing the DDD package as they should be, making that Turbo Zeus can break or save your day. And I see that they actually opted to main deck the Sangan. Now, to be honest with you, we've had a lot of builds that have just been pushing the Sangan to the side deck. I don't have a problem with having it in the main. It's just you're going to have to bump the deck size up a little bit to kind of maximize and find room to get this in the deck so that you can do your thing. I also see that we're playing a copy of Trap Tracks down here as well. Hey, setting, this from the deck and triggering an Unchained card, yeah, that doesn't seem very fun for my opponent at all. You know what I mean? So interesting take on Unchained. A lot of the same stuff that we've seen, but you've also got a little bit of exciting things here. And our next list here, okay, so we're playing for both of these decks. Wanted to bounce these numbers back and forth here and try some interesting little ratios. I am glad to see that somebody is still caring about Unchained Soul of Disaster. Card is still good. I don't have a problem with Disaster. It's just about 95% of the time you're just going to yeet it into the side deck and then just kind of call it a day from there. The card doesn't really do too much in terms of, promoting good interactions for the deck. It does help with certain outs, but that's about it. Still playing our DDD package. Just one Dark Contract, though. That's extremely cute. Hey, look, guys, we're playing a 1/1 package here for some reason. Cool. And then we have the Destructive Daruma Cannons and all the other fun stuff. No Sangan for this build. Interesting. So you got two different polar opposites out here for what you're attempting to do with Unchained. Definitely interesting to see. Next up here, we have Flanderies. Okay, so we're playing the Apex, the One Ryza, double End Pen. I see that we're not getting too saucy. Here, wait a minute. We're playing Scary Sea. We're not playing the other trap. Okay, I also see that we're playing Snowl. This is much different than what we're used to seeing out here for a lot of the Flanderies decks, and I don't think change is a bad thing, honestly. Like, having something a little bit more different in the meta for this deck is not bad. I see that we still are playing the one Harpy's Featherstorm, citing the additional 2. That feels like it's pretty normal. And then I see that we have the good old Thrust here to go up and do our thing. We're only main decking 1 Unexplored Winds. We're not citing the additional copy, so everything for this a little bit more teched out than my personal liking really wants to see, but okay. Our next list here is Minkanko with Again and Ken. Why would we not be playing Again and Ken, right? Like, especially when you can do thrust interactions into talents. Yeah, we've all seen this. No Diabell Star package, but we are playing the Double-Edged Sword. I love this card so much. It's so cool. See that we are also playing the Summon Limits. Get some... This is actually kind of cool. The fact that this deck is looking to kind of slow down the opponent, kind of capitalize on a little bit more of things. I see that we are citing some heavy hitter kaijus here, which is actually pretty good to see. Outside of that, we are, Fire Warrior extenders to get to the Assault to kind of do your thing. I know a lot of people don't like the comboer heavy build, but honestly, it helps this deck out a lot in just getting the consistency that it really needs to kind of get off the ground. So kudos to seeing this. And our last list here is actually Nimbo Sprite Turbo. And yes, we are main decking 3 Radion Kaijus here, so you can hand it over to your opponent and do your thing. We're only playing 2 copies of Fenrir here as well. I see that we do have the Nimble Anglers, 2 Thrust, 1 Talents. We do side the Nightmare Corruptor Ibli. And we do have Spellbound, Summon Limits, and we're actually siding getting two judgments here. A little bit different of a take for Sprite than I think we're really used to seeing out here, but interesting to say the least. So what do you think about this OTS championship breakdown? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.